Okay. That's Hi, Sally.
All our bad examples up on the UDC so we can see what we know.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everybody. Like to go ahead and open up public comment. Time is 6:30. Views expressed by individuals during public comment do not necessarily reflect the views of the city of Fremont, have not been verified for accuracy by the city. As a reminder, the city council and staff are not permitted to respond to comments or questions during the public comment period in accordance with Fremont Municipal Code Section 2-103. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person and shall not contain topics included on this evening's agenda. So we will go ahead and get started. Jody, do we have anybody on the list tonight?
We do, Mr. Mayor. Ron Vlock.
Ron Block, 2450 West Military here in Fremont. First of all, I want to start off with the positives. I had 3 incidents that happened that the city was no fault. It just, things happened. One of their trees fell over my brand new fence and fell on one of my customers' brand new trailers. That was number 1. Number 2, they opened the water mains up one night, took all the rock and the mud, gravel and everything all over my parking lot. That's number 2. Number 3, we had a intoxicated individual go through a dead end, went through my building, caused about $750,000 worth of damages. Where I'm going with this is I called all 3 of these people and everything was fixed beyond my expectations in 2 weeks. Everything. I mean, we have a great fire department, got a great police department. Utilities. I hear nothing but good things about these people. And then now we got to get to why I'm really here. I built this building on Business Park Drive about 22 years ago. And all the water from Business Park Drive is supposed to drain to the north. The city was out there and made me and my other guy that built our buildings put in concrete culverts. And the city came out while we were putting the culverts in and made sure they were at the right depth so all the water would run to the north. And it did. The lot next to me was purchased a year ago by my neighbor. He built a building and there's plastic pipe put in the ditch now, and there's corrugated black pipe put in the ditch. And the water doesn't drain like it's supposed to. The city did come out where it wasn't covered up and tried to flush it. Where I'm going with this is when he got done with his project, all the dirt work was done. Contractor, not in this room, said, you know, we got to landscape the front of this thing. So 3 minutes are up.
It is, just if you want to quickly wrap it up. Please.
Okay. I sent pictures. It floods my entire property every time it rains. I've sent pictures twice up to the 3rd floor, and I couldn't find out who the city employee was that told that contractor to cover up those culverts. And they wouldn't tell me. I found out on my own and sent the pictures up there, went up there 2 weeks ago, and they said, we'll have this gentleman call you tomorrow. It's been 2 weeks. Nobody has called. Thank you for listen to.
Mr. Mayor, we have Larry Marvin.
Good evening. My name is Larry Marvin, and I live at 1945 Morningside Road, apartment 124, Fremont. And I'm here to thank you for serving on the council, and I'm also here to fire you. I live at Deerfield, and you shut my power off. I believe it was 41 hours. I have an electric furnace. My coffee pot didn't work. My microwave didn't work. My electric stove didn't work. And it was about 41 hours that you shut it off. And I toured the power plant 2 or 10 years ago when we had open house, and everybody knows how to do their job well. And then we merged a mutual aid with Omaha Public Power, and I think it was $17 million or $150 million. And that's to see that I have my electricity, and I had to go without. And I don't like that. And so the second day, I thought, I'm going to go out for lunch. And it was a beautiful day, so I went, searched the town, and the last restaurant I came to was Hy-Vee, and you just shut theirs off. It was about 12 or 12:30 in the day. The second day, a beautiful day, you should have been adding us customers, and you shut them off. So you're fired. I don't like your excuses. And I don't like our employees' excuses that were involved in shutting Hy-Vee off, because it was a beautiful day. They should have been adding us customers. And I don't like that at all. And so to have all my electricity to be vulnerable like that, it's very uncomfortable. And I could look a block and a half to the north and along Morningside Road, there were 3 street lights running. And if you look at over there, here we have 9 wires coming across, and right by Ed's vehicle, right above it is a street light for us. And there's 9 wires going on past over our vehicles. And you shut us off, or you didn't put us back on. And I see, if you go a block north of the golf course, there's a couple fenced in areas where there's all these breakers where you can switch it from here to there. Supposedly you can switch it from there to there. And I never talked to the people that do that switching. I talked to the people who were working in the power plant. They know their job, and I assume everybody else knows their job. But why weren't you switching the power? And then I want to ask you, did Lund Real Estate, my landlord, did they tell you that 600 or 400 or 1,000 of us living in their apartments were without the power? So thank you for serving, but you're fired. Okay, thank you.
Kelly Steamer? Steamer? Steamer. Uh, I, I don't know. I know. I know. I know. For everybody that just joined us here in the council chambers, we are in open public comment till 7 o'clock. Any member of the public can speak on any item that's not on the agenda for up to 3 minutes. There's also comment cards in this box here if you wish to fill out your comments that way. And if you are here to speak, please come to the front over here to sign in.
Oh. Upper G. Oh, okay. All of the stars are got two boys, one by blood, one by spell. Female. Yeah. No, but yes. Oh, sure. Monahan, Brian. Yeah, yeah, Becky. Yeah. I'm, yeah, well, he's safe. Thursday morning, I believe. Full. Off and on different days.
Right, good evening, everybody. Time is 7 o'clock. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll go ahead and open up the regular city council meeting and call it to order. The Opens Meeting Act is posted on the back wall next to the agendas. A copy of the agenda and all materials is here in the white binder up here in the front on the desk here. And we'll have roll call.
Eight members present, Mayor.
All right, next is mayor's comments. I would like to start off by recognizing our April 2025 service awards. First, we have Timothy Malley, 25 years of service. Tim was hired as a maintenance worker 2 within the street department in 2000. As of 2009, he has held the position of equipment operator. Randy Vanek, 5 years of service. Randy has been with the city of Fremont since 2020 as a maintenance worker 2 within the parks department. And then we have here tonight, Jeremy Young, 5 years of service. Jeremy has been full-time with the Department of Utilities since 2020. He started as a network PC technician and was promoted to network system administrator in 2022. Jeremy, you want to come up and accept your service award for 5 years? And congratulations. Let's give him a round of applause. Appreciate Jeremy. You know, he kind of got started right when I kind of got started as mayor. And, you know, in the old council chambers, he was a big reason why all these meetings were running back then before these the new equipment. So appreciate all that he's done, and congratulations to all the service awards for April of 2025. Next, I would like to give a proclamation, really in regards to something that we all take for granted. You know, we talked about we take for granted our power resource, right? But next week is Drinking Water Week. And we are very blessed here within the city of Fremont to have a very dedicated staff that provides exceptional service to our community. And we have had, was voted on the best tasting water in the US, and which that is a tremendous feat. That's a great accomplishment that we should all be proud of. But that does not happen on its own. That happens after really decades of planning and of investment by our community and by the personnel within the utility. And so I want to read this proclamation in recognition of Drinking Water Week. So whereas water is our most valuable natural resource, and whereas drinking water serves a vital role in daily life, serving an essential purpose to health, hydration, and hygiene needs for the quality of life that our citizens enjoy, and whereas tap water delivers public health protection, fire protection, support for our economy, and whereas the hard work performed by the entire water sector, designing capital projects, operators ensuring the safety and quality of our drinking water, and members maintaining our system that we rely on. And whereas the coronavirus pandemic has shone a light on the importance of drinking water for health, hydration, and hygiene needs, and whereas the citizens of our city are called upon to help protect our source of water from pollution, practice water conservation, and get involved with their water by familiarizing themselves with it. Now, therefore, I, Joey Spellerberg, Mayor of the City of Fremont, do hereby proclaim the week of May 4 through 10, 2025 as Drinking Water Week. And with us, we have our wastewater superintendent, Keith Contour. Keith, would you come up and accept this proclamation? Let's give Keith a round of applause. Thank you. We got to do the handshake again. You know, you've got a firm handshake, so. All right. Right. Right, that concludes my comments for this evening, and now we'll move on to appointments. Item one is a motion to confirm the appointments of Grant Jordan, Ryan Sullivan, and Ethan Mullally as firefighters per mayor recommendation. It is my pleasure tonight to bring forward these three individuals for appointments to the city. All of them have completed the civil service process. And again, I'm very excited to be able to present these three individuals for the fire department. If there's any questions on their appointments, if not, I would take a motion. Councilman Sukram,
I'll make that motion for the firefighters.
Councilman Jensen,
And I will second.
please vote.
That motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
All these three individuals are here again with members of their family. Would they please stand and help us recognize them and welcome them to our Fremont Fire Department? I know all three have a very bright future, so congratulations again. Welcome to Fremont. Right, item two now is resolution 2025-095, accepting and approving the reappointment by the mayor of the members of the Port Authority Board of Commissioners whose terms expired March 20th, 2025. In the backup, you have the reappointments of Fred Mitty, Steve Pribnow, and Joe Sajovic to the Port Authority Board. These are reappointments of these three individuals. I would take any questions from the council on these three. If there are none, I would take a motion on these reappointments. Councilman Jensen,
I'll make the motion to reappoint the named individuals.
Councilman Sukram,
I'll second.
cast your votes.
That motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Moving on to the consent agenda, all items in the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council, will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda by council or staff? Councilman Von Baron.
Just a couple of questions on number 10, please.
Okay. Any other items from council or staff? Any items from the public to be removed from the consent agenda? Seeing no other items, I would take a motion to approve the consent agenda, items 3 through 9, 11 through 16. Councilman Horner.
So moved.
Councilman Sukram.
I'll second.
Cast your votes.
That motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 10 would be a resolution 2025-094, authorizing the mayor to sign a professional services contract with the Eastern Nebraska Office of Aging for reimbursement for staff services at the Friendship Center. And we'll have our staff report from Nick Hansen, our Parks and Rec Director, who's here.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilman. Nick Hansen, Parks and Rec Director. This is our annual ENOA annual contract that we have with the state. This helps our senior center. They fund some of our part-time 20 hours. They cover some of our janitorial costs, and I believe they cover, I think that's about it. But it does come to about $27,000 that they reimburse throughout the year, which is a nice help to make that community center and senior center or friendship center, however you call it, up and running. So I'll take any questions.
Councilman Von Baron.
No, just first of all, Nick, I think the Friendship Center is one of the better services Fremont offers. You're to be complimented on that. It's well-run, it's well-managed, people are enthusiastic, very well done. I was just curious about some of the general operation. Are these, what we're seeing here, are those the entire salaries of staff?
Nope, that just covers our one assistant manager. The
Just-
rest is we have two other, just part-time people that help us.
Okay, just roughly, overall, what is our city budget to fund that center per year?
That's a good question right off the bat.
Well, I realize it gets you, but I assume Inoa, I believe, provides the meals.
Yes, they
and-
provide the meals every day.
Right.
What the suggestion cost is $4.25
Mm-hmm.
to come out and eat. So they provide the food every single day. They bring it from Omaha. Great meal. So if you ever get a chance, go out there and have a meal. But under the budget wise, I mean, Parks and Rec has 3.2 million. I'm not sure what the senior center would cover on that part without actually having the numbers on me.
Oh, that's fine. It's not a key issue. Just again, I compliment you on it. Just was curious on some of the detail and the inner workings. That's fine. Thank you.
Any other questions from the council on this item? Okay, any comments from the public in regards to this item? There's no other comments or questions. I would take a motion from the council. Councilman Horner.
Yeah, Mayor, I would make the motion on this item, approve a resolution 2025-094.
Councilwoman Ganem.
I second.
Cast your votes.
That motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Moving on to unfinished business, item 17 is ordinance 5712 for a change of zone to R rural and GC general commercial to mobile home plan development for the Meadowbrook mobile home community. This would be for the second reading. Staff report.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council, Jennifer Dam, Planning Director. This is the second reading for a planned development for the Meadowbrook Mobile Home Park. Excuse me. It will make the park a conforming use. Part of the improvements include almost 2-mile long private sanitary sewer system that will connect to our sanitary sewer system, a shelter, a playground, bus stop, and other improvements within the park. By removing it from a non-conforming use and making it a conforming use, it encourages reinvestment in the park and hopefully will make it a better place for everybody. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for staff on this item?
Mr.
Councilman Horner.
Has anything substantive changed on this since the last, since the first reading?
No.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been working with council for the developer on this, Mr. Mitchell. There's been some clerical changes we want to make to the ordinance that were identified. So those changes are found starting on page 258 of the packet on the ordinance itself. In the section 1, I'd suggest that we change the word following, strike that and put the word above, since the real estate is described above rather than after that section. And then we also change the language that says from PD plain development to SC suburban commercial. We strike that and change it to R rural and general commercial to PD plain development. So I'd ask the council to make that amendment to the ordinance prior to second reading.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the public on this item? Okay, are there any additional comments from council? Councilman Vaughn.
If no other comments, I would make a motion to approve the language change as suggested by legal.
Okay. Motion to amend, Councilman Jensen.
And I will second the motion to amend.
Please vote.
That motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Okay, I would take a motion to approve the second reading as amended. Councilman Horner,
I'll make the motion to approve the second reading of ordinance number 5712 as amended.
Councilwoman Ganem,
I second.
cast your votes for second reading.
That motion carries 8-0, Mayor. Ordinance number 5712, an ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska, amending ordinance number 5427 as it pertains to the zoning map to rezone the property generally located at Gusty Drive and Platte River Road from R rural and GC to PD plan development, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for severability and providing an effective date. Second read.
Thank you. We'll move on to new business now. Item 18 is ordinance 5714 for government salary increase. This is a consider request to suspend rules and move to final reading of ordinance 5714. We'll have staff report.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Jennifer McDuffie, Director of Human Resources. This ordinance would provide a 3% increase for the FOP bargaining unit, which is the bargaining unit for the police department. This was included in their approved contract, so this would just be in going with the terms of the contract. This has already been approved by council.
Any questions on this item? Comments from the public on this item? If there's no additional comments on questions, I would take a motion. Councilwoman Ganem,
I move we approve ordinance 5714 for government salary increases.
Councilman Sukram,
I'll second.
cast your votes.
That motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Now have first reading of the ordinance.
Ordinance number 5714, an ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska pertaining to pay plan for officers and employees, repealing ordinance number 5710 and all other ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for publication in pamphlet form and providing for an effective date. First read.
Councilman Jensen,
I'll make the motion to suspend the rules and move ordinance 5714 to the third and final reading at this time.
Councilman Sukram,
I will second.
cast your votes. Move to final reading.
That motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Have final reading.
Ordinance number 5714, an ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska pertaining to pay plan for officers and employees, repealing ordinance number 5710 and all other ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for publication in pamphlet form and providing for an effective date. Final read.
We'll now have the final vote.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor. Ordinance number 5714 is approved.
Now moving on to item 19, as a council member Ganem item, consider a motion to direct the city attorney to include language in the Unified Development Code. I guess I'll turn it over to Councilwoman Ganem. Go ahead.
Our city is going through the process of reviewing and putting together a Unified Development Code, or UDC. It is an important document. We want our city to be welcoming and be inviting to those who live here and for our visiting guests. We also want to always put our best foot forward when guests come to town, so they'll want to come back. We want to give a positive impression, and the code gives us the uniformity for that overall development. It develops basically a feeling tone for the city of Fremont. It has been observed in the past that the city does not always follow its own codes that it develops and we approve. Personally, I have a personal bias though, because in my administrative training, we were taught that we don't ask others to do things that we ourselves are not willing to do. And the second takeaway from my training is we always involve those that have a direct impact on the decisions that we've made. Sometimes you can't always do that because we have a different viewpoint and the total picture rather than a slice of a picture. but I was always ready to answer the questions and have rationale for why that might not have happened. And I think our city does a great job in involving others who are impacted by the decisions that are going to be made and directions we're going. The UDC has certainly received a lot of input and they do listen. But I want to address a few areas of why we do not have to follow the UDC. First, legally, we're not required to. Secondly, the view is there is a difference between development paid by taxpayers and development for profit. Thirdly, there is a concern that the city could be hamstrung in future projects by removing discretion. And we need to consider the impact on the city, not just for private developers or current owners. Now, my contention is we could price businesses out of coming to Fremont, and redevelopment of a business could become cost prohibitive. It still falls back on the consumer because in the end, it's the citizens of Fremont that will pay the increased costs that we're requiring through UDC guidelines. My personal belief is that we make the rules and we should lead and model by example of what we expect, despite, even if we are legally exempt from that. It just kind of reminds me of Congress, who makes rules for all of us, and then they exempt themselves from the same rules that they put on us. I don't want to hamstring our city or any business. Our UDC already allows for waivers and variances. Public and private should go through the process already in place. And our new UDC guidelines will also allow for waivers and variances, if we can show that a variance or waiver is indeed the way to go. An example, in the new UDC, there is some landscaping requirements, but if you apply it to a parking lot downtown that has 29 parking spaces, if we followed the guidelines, it wipes out 16 of those parking spaces. So that doesn't always make sense. And then there, we would follow the process because indeed a variance or waiver could be asked for. The point is private and public needs to utilize the processes already in place. I personally do not see, because we're not required to follow the UDC guidelines, that we should excuse ourselves from leading and demonstrating what it is we say we want to project and what we want others to follow. Well, I could have written a resolution stating that we will follow the UDC guidelines by leading through example and modeling our expectations whenever possible. I recognize I am very biased, and it comes from a biased point of view. So that's why I'd like to propose that we direct our staff to appropriately word a statement for the UDC that guides us in the direction of leading. But I'd like to hear from what our council members and public feels about that.
Thank you. Councilman Horner.
I'll lead off on this one. Sally, we've talked about this quite a bit, and you know, I've been to a few of those meetings with the Planning Commission and have heard, you know, both sides and, you know, a lot of the ideas and everything. And I've got some concerns with it. I've expressed those. Overall, I believe, and I know Travis and I had a brief conversation about this, just, you know, about the idea of the city having to follow its own rules. On the surface, it sounds like a great idea. I mean, it sounds like, hey, that's easy to do, you know, we follow our own rules, but there's a lot of reasons that the city does need to be exempt. And I agree with that. But at the same time, I wouldn't mind seeing some sort of a statement at the beginning of the UDC that just says that as a city that we're gonna do, what we can to model the expectations that we're laying down in the UDC. I think that would be a very good positive statement. And then to the extent that we can do it, without unduly burdening taxpayers to, meet it, then I think that, I think I could support something like that. That's all I've got to say on it.
Councilman Von Baron.
Yeah, I think it's a valid point. And this isn't unique to cities. You can go into an organization, you can go into a corporation. And when you know you're starting to get in trouble is when you start letting things slide. We've all got more to do than we can handle. There's more than enough to keep us busy. And it's understandable to say, look, we understand the intent, nothing is being violated. But it doesn't matter whether it's a corporation or a family or a business. It ends up being a somewhat slippery slope. When leadership starts exempting itself, and I understand the reasons behind the city, but overall, when leadership begins to exempt itself from following the guidelines that it supports, that's whatever the case is, it doesn't take long for everything else to follow. It's not by intention, it's not by design, it's done by good people who mean well. They have the best interests at heart, but it seems efficient at the time. It's an easy shortcut, and I'm sure you can all think of examples. I think we're wise to hold ourselves to that standard. It's an issue of transparency and accountability, and frankly, it's an obligation of leadership. So I appreciate you bringing it forward.
Councilwoman Lathrop.
I'd just like to add to that, that I do agree that the city should model that as well. With all of the work that's gone into this UDC and the amount of time that Jennifer has taken listening to all of the concerns of not just the planning commission, but the council, the public, everybody, I think it's important for the city to step up and support all that work and the UDC itself. So I do agree that we should follow that as much as humanly possible.
Councilman Jensen.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree on following it as much as humanly possible. I just think we should leave some avenue. I think Blair had a good idea there. Put some kind of statement to where we're going to follow this in our the best possible way that we can, but still leave some areas where there will be councils in place that can decide whether the city gets a variance, whether people get a variance. There will be instruments in place to make the adjustments on the fly on this.
Councilman Vaughn.
I would be in support of some sort of language indicating we would make that attempt, but anything that would, lock us into things that we don't truly understand what the impact might be, I think might be a bit foolhardy, but to state our intent, I think that makes good sense.
Councilman Peterson.
And I want to echo what Councilwoman Ganem said too. And I think what we're talking about here is a little flexibility. Because I think sometimes if we come across as too harsh and too stern, we're sending a message that you're not welcome here. And we certainly don't want to do that. So I think with good common sense and reasoning, we're all grown-ups here, the people on the planning commission, we all want the best. That's what we're taking our time to make sure we get this right. So I support what she was saying.
Any comments from the public on this item? Okay. Additional comments from council on this? Councilwoman Ganem.
If there's no further comments, I move we direct our legal, Travis, to work on a statement that states our intent as a city and bring it back to the next meeting for us to review.
Councilman Sukram.
I would second that.
Cast your votes.
That motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 20 is another council member Ganem item to discuss the animal control ordinance study session. Go ahead.
Thank you. Well, I've had a lot of fun on this one. Our city is responsible for animal control for the safety and health of our citizens. I have served on this animal control committee. This is the third year, starting the third year with it. So the last several years, along with Chairperson Councilman Paul Von Baeren and members Kelly Stumer, our CSO, and former Councilman Brad Yerger. Brad Yerger had served on an animal control committee several years before ours was reinitiated. We used the work of the previous committee as a springboard to go forward to address animal issues. The goals included to simplify the language as needed, to ensure practical enforcement of whatever it is we pass, to eliminate redundant wording throughout, and eliminate processes or committees that are not practical. I've personally learned a lot serving on this committee, and we've examined many issues and changes in the ordinances, even chickens, requests for chickens to have backyard chickens. So the reason for the study, before presenting the ordinances for approval, there is background information we'd like to provide prior to submitting the documents to gain a better understanding of what we currently have and the directions we're going. And I will yield to Councilman Von Baeren.
Councilman Von Baeren.
No, I think Councilwoman Gann has basically summarized it. It's I started putting together a summary of what we've done. I looked at it and I thought, is that all? It's interesting because it is not a simple subject. You would think it would be fairly straightforward, but when you dive into the details, especially when you start getting into the practicality of enforcement, it's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to have a CSO sitting there and saying, no, that sounds good. That's not quite right. It's not the real world. So we've just tried to layer this with function and protection, practicality. In fact, one of the big ones I think we want to discuss is the whole issue of feral cats. I had no idea it was that big an issue. Estimates are that somewhere in the city limits of Fremont are dwelling something like 4,000 cats who are feral. And are they a problem? No, yeah, some places they are, but it's a situation you just don't want to dive into headlong. And so it's not the end of the world if we don't do this, but I think it would be very helpful, and especially in the spirit of giving the public an opportunity to comment on what we've done. I think that's the critical piece. Thank you.
Okay. Council have any discussion? So this would be, again, to discuss the animal control ordinance study session. That's the intent of this, is to have a study session regarding this, correct?
Yes, our intent is to have a study session just so we can give you some background information and some presentations by people actually working in the field with this. So hopefully it'll give you some basis that will help you understand some of the ordinances that we're going to be proposing.
Councilman Horner.
Just so I can understand this, we call it animal control, but as I look at it and as I've talked to some others about it, it's not just animal control we're talking about here. We're also talking about animal welfare, it seems like to me. When we look at a lot of the functions and so forth that are going on, that I know we call it animal control ordinance, but there's a broader scope to it than that, it seems like to me. Is that right?
Seems that way, correct? Councilman Von Baeren. I will say though that our responsibility as a city is for animal control. And so we try to take that into account. Yes, the city has been acting. I think you don't want to disregard the welfare of an animal. That's why we have some of those ordinances on dangerous animals and certainly on neglect and abuse of your animal, backyard chickens. But hopefully we can have a good discussion within the study group. And we might not be able to confine it within a 30-minute period.
Councilman Von Buren, do you have?
No, I was just gonna, I can wait till the next round
Okay,
if you want to do
all
that.
right. Councilwoman Lathrop?
Just kind of a general question. How close is this to coming to council? I mean, are we within the next meeting or, I mean, how close is this really?
Well, we want to give you certainly time to look through those ordinances and not just hand it to you on a Friday for a vote on Tuesday. But this next study session should give you an opportunity to at least learn about the background. And then we plan to meet a few more times, and it should be ready by the, certainly by the end of the month in May. I hope I'm correct on that.
Councilman Jensen?
Yeah, I was just going to make the point and just ask if we're looking at doing anything significantly different than what we're already doing, that needs to be figured into the budgets that we're going to be going into with the next soon also.
Good. Are there any comments from the public? Okay, this is just to discuss the animal study session. I did talk to Councilman Ganem. If there is not any objection from the council, we will work to put a study session before our next meeting. So looking at between 6 and 7 o'clock. I would just, say, I would like to see it organized with, either presenters and, obviously we want to have a productive discussion on where we are now and what this would do and some of the reasoning behind that. And so I'm going to kind of rely on you to come up with that. And then, like you said, if we want some time for public comment as well within that. So that would be my, I guess, charge to you. We want this to be a productive 1 hour for everybody involved. And I think it can be set up correctly. So that's what we're going to be working toward if there's no other objection from the council. Okay. Councilman Jensen?
Do you need a motion to that effect, or are we just going?
I don't think.
No, I was told we didn't need to take action on it, but I wanted to bring it forward on why we're requesting a study session first before we present anything.
Councilman Von Buren?
Yeah, just a couple of minor things in response to the welfare question. That's a seemingly simple question. That is not an easy one to answer because basically animal control, as Councilman Ganem described it, is in the interest of the public. When you enter the realm of animal welfare, there's a very blurred line between taking on responsibility for all the animals in the community. And, that's an exaggeration, of course, but it doesn't take long to start wandering down that slope. One of the other things we want to explore, we hope to have some more detail in, is as far as the feline problem. We'd like to look at a public-private partnership in authorizing some control programs so that not all of it would come from the city. I think there's room to do that. So it's all preliminary, but I think it'll be worth discussing.
Okay. Thank you for the work that you've put into that effort. We'll plan on that at the next meeting. Okay, we'll now move on to item 21 is a resolution 2025-092, approving the city and Department of Utilities master fee schedule update and authorizing staff to assess those fees accordingly. We have staff report on this item on the master fee schedule.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, City Council, Michael Chatterson, City Clerk. This is our annual master fee schedule. So this is just the cost of any services the city provides. All Department of Utility and city staff got together, ensure that their fees line up accordingly, and we're bringing it forward today for approval. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Councilman Horner?
I hate sometimes asking questions when I'm afraid it's gonna show my ignorance is much deeper than I even imagined. You know, I've gone through and I've looked at, you know, various parts of our codes and ordinances and things like that, and I guess it never dawned on me that we're calling this the Department of Utilities Master Fee Schedule, but it doesn't seem as if all of these fees apply to utilities. So am I mistaken in that, or am I just reading this wrong, or is that just where we happen to park all our fees?
It's a joint city and Department of Utilities master fee. So every city department and all of the utilities also. So we just combine into one document.
And we just call it the Department of Utilities Master Fee Schedule.
Oh, I think I'm reading the resolution here approving the city.
And the department. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Any other Councilwoman Ganem?
No, just a humorous note. I noticed that there was a fee for fowls running loose. We don't have fowls running loose in the city of Fremont. It just struck me funny serving on the animal control. Just thought I'd share that with you.
Any other comments or questions from council on the fee schedule? Councilman?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was joking around. I do on a couple of things, just in general. And this one will help me maybe understand others, but I'm looking at, there's no page numbers on this, so, and I printed it out, so I'm not sure where it is in here. Larger than 1,001 amps. We've got a fee of $250 for, I'm assuming it's a permit for that, or for a hookup or something. But then we go $10 for each additional $100 amps. And I'm just kind of curious how we come at that increment and why we're charging that differential. Does it cost us more to approve or to think about or whatever in that? And if that one is answered, it's probably going to cascade and answer a lot of others for me.
Jeff, can you take that?
Yeah, I can try. If that is on the on the utility side, it's likely on meter size and just the incremental cost in the different meter sockets and meter size. Okay, so it's for a permit from the inspections. Yeah, then.
It's under, yeah, flat fee permits. You have, again, yeah, larger than 1,001 amp.
Yeah, because you're
$250.
starting to get into a very large service. I'm sure that there's a lot more inspection time involved in that, I would guess. Because it is a significantly large service. A typical home would have a 200 amp service. So you're getting into a very large industrial facility that would have some kind of services like that.
Councilwoman Ganem?
No, just clarification on another item that said our public electric car plugins or vehicle plugins, that we have a certain cost for electric vehicles. And then there's another cost underneath it that's just a little bit, that's less, $1 less, that says for non-use on those public hookends. Can you explain the differences?
Yeah, what we're trying to do is get customers to, once their car is charged, to get that car off of the slot so somebody else can move in. Otherwise, they'll just sit there and charge all day. So we had to give some kind of a mechanism to encourage them to leave the charger to let somebody else roll in.
Oh, I agree. Then that charge should be the same as when they're charging it.
Well, they're not taking any electricity at that point.
I get that, but they're taking the spot for
They're-
someone to use it.
Understood.
Comments from the public on the master fee schedule? Any additional comments from council? Councilman Jensen.
If there's no additional comment, I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2025-092.
Councilman Sukram.
I'll second that.
Cast your votes.
A motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 22 is resolution 2025-102, authorizing the mayor to sign a change order with Miko Henny in the amount of $183,094 for the Street Parks Fleet Maintenance Building. We'll have the staff report.
Mayor, City Council, Jeff Shanahan, Utility Manager. A couple weeks ago, we came to you with a couple change orders for the street fleet and parks building. One of them was a deduct if the soil was going to be suitable for use for fill at the site. We had the contractor take off the top layer and started doing some samples and determined that it wasn't going to be suitable for use for fill at that location. It might have been, but we would have had to do spot digs over there. And we didn't want to have the project be delayed while we're constantly analyzing the soil to make sure we can haul a load over to the site. So we asked the contractor to just give us the credit, take the credit away, go back to the original price and the original plan for the fill dirt. So they credit us back the full $132,563 for the soil. We did also ask them to move the sanitary sewer from connecting on Luther Road to connect on Morningside Road. Luther Road, it was discovered, and we knew that there was some lines there, but we weren't sure about the depth of the sewer leaving the site. And in order to get the sewer over to the east side of Luther Road, we had to cross two major water lines, two 30-inch water lines. And we didn't want to add another lift station on the site. So we asked them to run it to the south and connect on Morningside Road, where we have a lot better shot at draining the sanitary into that line. So that was a change order of $41,480. There was a deduct of $949 for removal of a bypass valve around a water meter. We don't want to do that. We wouldn't want that. And then as part of the ad for the soil, there was some mobilization and demob costs that the contractor applied, which came to $10,000. So the net effect increase on the total project will be $50,531 if this is approved.
Councilman Jensen.
Just a question about the soil, and maybe I missed it. Who determined that soil is not going to be good to use? Did we determine it or did they determine it?
We had consultants and they did too. We had a couple of people doing soil samples because we're looking at it for fill for other locations also.
Councilman Horner.
All I wanted to say is just comment, Jeff, that it didn't work out this time, but I commend you for your thinking on that. I thought it was an absolutely brilliant idea when I heard it. You're digging out a hole that we're going to be able to use, put to good use, and why not use that soil somewhere else? Thank you for thinking that way. Too bad it didn't work out this time.
Any other comments or questions from the council? Councilman Peterson.
But just to put it in layman terms, and Jeff and I talked about this, I think one other time, but when you say it's sometimes it's hard to imagine from a layman's point of view. Well, dirt's dirt. I mean, but it's not. And Fremont is blessed with a lot of things, but it's not blessed with all the right soil. And we have something called, in layman's terms, it's gumbo, and it is like trying to backfill with dirt clods that don't break up. I mean, they're like this big, and they take forever, so they make lousy backfill. So it's probably good for something, maybe throwing it at your people you don't like very much or something, but that's what we used to do when we were kids. But the stuff's all over town, and you can see people who've had settling issues and this and that, especially for our far east and north of Fremont. So I just want to put some layman's terms that we're not trying to split hairs and say, well, this is going to charge more. No, because the soil is not, when you say not suitable, you aren't kidding. It's lousy for backfill. Maybe that's a better way to put it. Thank you.
Any questions from the public on this? Comments from the public? Okay, any additional comments from council on this item? Councilman Horner.
No other comment, Mayor. If there aren't any other comments, I was just gonna move that we approve resolution 2025-102, authorizing you to sign the change order with Echo Henny.
Councilwoman Ganem.
Second.
That motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 23 is resolution 2025-101, awarding the contract for the installation of cable and conduit to Valley Corporation, the amount of $248,576.25.
Mayor, City Council, Jeff Shanahan, Utility Manager. Out at Washington Heights, there's all the services are underground, and it's been in the ground for quite some time. We determined that some of the cables got some failures, and so we put it on a multi-year process to get the cables replaced. This is phase 2 of the Washington Heights project. So we went out for bids. We received 4 bids. Engineering reviewed the bids, determined the lowest bid received didn't meet the specifications and didn't have the experience that we felt was necessary to do this scope of work in these backyards, because you're in everybody's yards. So we evaluated the second bidder and determined they had the capability of doing that. And we're requesting that we can go with Valley Corp as the contractor to install the conduit and cable.
Questions for staff? Councilman Von Baron.
Just an academic question, Jeff. When you get into something like this, there's $117,000, of course, between that bottom bid. Was the individual clearly unqualified? Was it a matter of they were just lax in turning the bid in documentation?
No, I think it was, they didn't have any of the relevant experience that we were looking for as a project of this size. And then they didn't turn in some of the documentation that was required as part of the bid package.
But it was more experience than documentation. I mean,
Well, it's
documentation can be remedied
Yeah.
for $117,000.
Well, not after we do an open bid.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any additional questions from the council? Anybody from the public here to speak on this item? Any additional comments from council? Councilman Horner?
No, Mayor, if there are no other comments, I would move that we approve resolution 2025-101.
Councilman Sukram?
Oh, second.
Cast your votes.
That motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 24 is resolution 2025-103, authorizing mayor to execute the change order agreement with JEO Consulting Group for engineering services related to the traffic signal improvement phase 3 project in the amount of $98,000. Go ahead.
First, Haven City Engineer, at the last city council meeting, council voted that they wanted to keep the signals at the intersection of 23rd and Summers. So after the meeting, we contacted JEO and got an engineering estimate for design of improvements to the signal at that intersection. The design fee was $56,500. We also asked them for engineering for Nye and 23rd as well, which came out to $41,500. This item is only for the engineering. They did include rough estimates of costs of both intersections. The engineering fees are independent, so you can vote for either one, both of them, or neither, but the costs are broken out per intersection. I know the council voted to move forward with Summers. It seems like a good idea to do both at the same time. I know we have the ability to keep the Nye intersection functioning with the equipment from 23rd and Luther, but it's old. It was replaced at 23rd and Luther because it was deemed to be not good enough to function at that intersection. And I don't know that you want to leave it at 23rd and Nye for a long time. I can't tell you how long it'll last. It could be there a year. It could be there 10 years. How long is your car going to run? I don't know. It could be there
a long time, but we are in the third and final phase of our contract with JEO. What this allows us to do is just do a change order and allow the same engineering firm that's designed all of the signals to do the signals on Nye and on Summers and have some sort of continuity in them so that they're all similar. If we were to wait and not do Nye now, wait 2 or 3 years, we'd have to go back through another RFP for engineering. We'd have to rebid out construction. Obviously, price is going to go up then. It's, in my opinion, it's better to get the engineering done now for both intersections. But like I said, the quotes are for individuals. So if you want to vote for one and not the other, that's up to the council. Take any questions.
Councilman Jensen.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand. So if we decide, I know the council voted last time that they wanted, well, they voted not to go to four-way stuff. I know they particularly voted, but they wanted to have lights there or not. But I just, but we could potentially vote to keep the one on Nye and not go forward on the Summers one. Is that correct?
You could do either or.
Yeah.
The vote last week, the last meeting was to not remove the ones on Summers.
Yeah.
To me, that means you want the signals on Summers. I'm assuming if you want signals, you want functioning signals. So that's kind of why we moved forward with that.
Councilman Horner.
Thank you, Mayor. Troy, remind me, because we talked about a lot of stuff. Nye and Summers was the intersection that was borderline. You could go either way with a four-way stop.
23rd and Nye was borderline.
I mean, sorry, 9 and 23rd, and then Summers, which we voted no on, was the one that the study had said could be easily turned into a four-way stop as well, correct?
Recommended a four-way stop, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Councilman Von Baron.
Troy, if I'm understanding the numbers, what you gave us in the write-up plus this change order, we're looking at somewhere around 650,000.
This is only for engineering.
No, I understand. But if we use this and we go ahead, stoplights, we're looking at a total of about.
The construction won't be a change order. The construction will probably be an open bid. Sadler Electric is the company that's pretty much done the construction of all of the signals all the way down 23rd. There is certainly an advantage to have them doing it again to continue on, but I think that number is just too big to do it as a change order. So I think we would probably put that construction out for a new contract. And so it wouldn't be a change order, but yes, it would be an extra, whatever the number is, 560 something thousand.
Well, what I was getting at in your report, it looks like this one intersection is about $310,000. If we put the lights in, the other about 255. So that's somewhere 550, 560 plus now another 98 on the change order. We're looking at a total cost in this of somewhere around 650,000 if we proceed.
The cost estimates are rough. I can't.
Not trying to pin you down.
No, I know. I think the cost estimate set here, we actually got pretty fortunate. The Summers intersection, they're able to keep one of the poles. They only have to replace one of them. Nye, they think they can use all the existing poles that are there, which is why it's a little bit less expensive. What happens with tariffs in the future? I don't know what's going to happen. It's not going to get cheaper, the longer we wait to do it.
No, and I actually supported the four-way at the last vote. And I think what swayed me is when you started talking about what we could have done, what we could do with that money. If in terms of paving streets, I think you said at that time, 5 to 6 blocks could be paved. This probably looks like 8 to 10. My whole point is, I think it was interesting when we had the power outage. You probably went through the intersections, 23rd and Bell, 23rd and Broad. It was just amazing how well people got along, and it's even less congested, of course, as we've said on Summers. My point is, this seems like a perfect solution, but given the cost of it, I'm not sure it's worth the money when we have a workable solution that we could have done with the recommendation with the stop signs. It's just, to me, it's a matter of trying to, I understand perfect, but I think given the cost, we need to give some consideration to what would be workable.
Councilman Vaughn.
I would echo similar sentiments. I think that looking at a best case or an estimated all-in kind of cost at $665,000 for stoplights at these two intersections, that's a heck of a lot of money. I don't care if we're comparing it to blocks of paving we could do or anything else. That's just a lot of money, especially when the same consultant group that we're asking to kind of come back in here with a change order and advise us further said, you don't need a stoplight here. You need a four-way stop. Now, I do understand why that can be dangerous there and confusing for some. Confusing at the least, possibly dangerous, I guess, when you've got a four-way stop scenario and existing overhead signals that folks are used to have been functioning in the past. If you lived here your whole life, it can be a little bit confusing. And I just can't support spending that kind of money when we've been spending a lot of money as a city, very necessary in my estimation in almost every aspect. But this is just one that I can't get behind. I don't really see any need to try to split it up and try to consider it differently. I don't think that's how it'll flow through, but I'll just express my lack of support for this item.
Just to clarify, this is just the engineering now. So we're talking about 98 here. They'll come back, and what the plan was is if one or both, none, then we won't do it. But if one or both are approved, they would get to about 90%. And then we would come back. If the numbers are similar, I would probably just move forward with a bid. If the numbers are substantially higher, I would probably come back and update and let everybody know, these numbers are higher than they were before.
Any members of the council that haven't spoken yet would like to at this point? We'll now move to public comment. Any comments from the public? Okay, now back to council comments. Councilman Jensen.
I just, maybe I should defer to legal here. Personally, right now, what I'd like to see happen here, I would like to see the lights that are on Nye Street just stay exactly like they were, and we turn Summers into the four-way stop that it should be. And I don't know if that's something it could be done through this, or if I'm the one that can do it, or somebody else has to. But that's just too much money for an intersection, for intersections on a street that isn't even Highway 30 anymore. It's a street. It's not a highway.
Yeah, if the council would like to change direction from what was discussed at the last meeting, I would suggest voting no on this and reconsidering the item that was brought last week and approve that based upon the knowledge presented today. But that would be, I think, the proper way to handle it if that's where you want to go.
Councilwoman Ganem.
I guess I will speak up in favor of the study being done because we can make some decisions later on, which way to go, if any, yes or no. But the study will already have been done, even if it's used in the future.
Okay. Yes, I have. Yes. Yes. Councilman Jensen.
Well, yeah, I was just gonna make a motion if there wasn't any other comment.
I have something else to add. I would like to make that motion, but I'd like to modify the resolution as it stands. What I would recommend is that we move forward with the study at 23rd and Summers, and we don't approve that portion of at Nye, and we just work with the light that we have. We have spare parts. I know there's a bit of uncertainty with that, but my bias on this would be to move, and this is from a lot of input from Ward 2 individuals that had called and voiced their concern about that light going away. We have a functioning light at Nye. We have backup parts. If they don't make it that long, then we can review that then, but I would make this, I would make a motion that we approve this with the modification that we do not include Nye. I don't know how
Okay,
I need to
before-
state that.
I would just,
The engineering for NICE, that's what
The
I'm trying to
engineering
under,
for now.
for, yeah, the light at night, is this,
You already have.
my
one.
understanding is this is the engineering for both, correct? Summers and NICE. 98,000.
Specifically asked for them because I didn't know what the appetite was. I separated them specifically and told them to give me a number for one and another, knowing one of them may go away and the other may go through by itself. So if you were to do that, the number would just be the 56,500 for nine.
So the
You'd
total-
eliminate that would be the total engineering only. That doesn't build anything. That gets the engineering plans done. Then when those are done, we'll come back. Again, if the construction estimate here at 90% is substantially off, we'll come back and just update on what the number is. But for 56,500, you'll get a set of plans that we can bid for improvements. And at that point, you would have to approve the 300 and whatever $1,000 for construction.
Okay.
But you can, I tried to write it so you could separate.
Here,
'Cause
I'll
I
attempt
know
that
the
again.
discussion last week was, there was some interest in NIE, there was some not interest in NIE. Again, there's an advantage in, having the engineering done for both now, because you'll have both sets of plans on the shelf. The lead time on these signals it's better, but it's still probably, I mean, if we were to do just NIE, you'd probably get it designed by June, July, bid another month or two. You know, you're looking maybe start of next year for construction to start. I mean, lead time on parts is gonna be 8 months. So if something were to go wrong with the one at NIE, there's probably emergency things that they can do, but it's not a bid anymore. That's probably, that number there is gonna go up if you wait for it to break down and then try to fix it afterwards.
Yeah.
Just trying to,
Yeah.
I don't know how long it'll last.
Before I want to get to that motion, I do have others that would want to speak.
Okay.
So Councilman Vaughn.
I believe legal kind of said it best, that we have a course of action would be to deny this in its entirety. That would be an option, and go back to the previous resolution from the last meeting.
But
correct?
I've got a motion that I'm gonna put on the table that is not that.
if I may, Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
Councilmember Horner, the resolution is approving both. And I don't know which study you wanted to approve. Did you want to approve the study for the one we discussed last week? So not that one.
I've got it, if you'll let me take a shot at it. You ready?
Okay, are there any other comments from the council? Go ahead.
I would make a motion that we approve resolution 2025-103 with the amendment that it only include the $56,500 for the study at 23rd and Summers, and it does not include the study at 23rd and NIE.
Okay. Councilman Sukram.
I will second that.
Okay.
The motion carries 5-3, Mayor.
Okay, we'll now move on to item 25 as resolution 2025-105 to award the contract to Old Castle Materials Midwest. This is doing business as Omni Engineering. The amount of $1,526,233.90 for the Broad Street Overlay Project.
Troy Shaven, city engineer, the Broad Street overlay bid about 2 weeks ago. There were 3 bids. Old Castle, doing business as Omni, was the lowest bidder. They were the contractor on First Street. I believe they were the contractor on Bell Street. They are a very good contractor. The $1,526,000 includes actually $385,400 in water main improvements that the Department of Utilities will pay for. So of the 1.5, the actual amount the city would pay for the Broad Street, and it's not the city would pay because Remember, this is actually reimbursed to us from the state as part of as far as the state giving us the highway. The amount the city would pay and then be reimbursed from the state would be $1,140,820. I believe the budget had $2 million for just the construction, so these were I think these were pretty strong bids. We would recommend awarding to Old Castle doing business as Omni.
Questions from the council on this item? Councilman Peterson.
Yes, Troy, and thanks for doing all this. My question for you is that you mentioned the water mains, that's great. I don't want to just put 2 inches on it and go home. I mean, it's a fixed water mains, but I know within the last 6 months, we had a sinkhole on Broad Street and I heard it was pretty nasty, but went down a few feet. It was like pudding or something was how it's described me. I'm not an engineer, so you would know better than I, but I would hope that and I think Jody mentioned something about some core samples. So we're going to try to address any issues going forward so we don't have to do this every 2 years.
We've taken core samples already for areas that are obviously
Of concern.
sunken and that doesn't necessarily mean that, the subgrade has to be removed and replaced. It's just a test to determine the feasibility or determine the condition of the underlying subgrade. The ones that we tested and were not good are included in the plans to have that saw cut and removed. I will say, there are some concerns about the rest of the underlayment on the whole project. I mean, we took core samples, but obviously you can't sample every panel, and so you could run into areas where there is brick over crushed rock, over a tractor, over something else. So
Yeah,
I really
anything's
don't know what's in there. So
No, that's true. That's
So
very true.
this is off of what we could identify. The stuff we can't identify would be extras, but at least we have a unit price for saw cutting. So if they did have to go in and remove additional subgrade, at least it's a bid price and we're not getting a change order price, which are generally higher.
If we do some excavation and take out some old city paving bricks, because I know they're down there, what do we do with those? Dumb question, but I have to ask, because years ago, the
So-
city did this and they sold them and they got a good price for them.
Yeah, generally on this, I think, anything the contractor takes out is his property when he does it, that's part of the bid. I mean, I could certainly approach the contractor and ask if they're not gonna use them. Would they be willing to? I know we have brick, so we have brick down at our street building and we've had brick there for 40 years and
Wow.
no one's taken a brick out of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. There was a time when they did a thing down on Main Street back in the 70s and they had people coming down like
That's
crazy
probably
buying
that
those
same brick that's down there right now.
things. They make great landscaping. And,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, okay, thank you.
Councilman Vaughn.
Troy, assuming we would approve this today, when would construction potentially start?
We'd have to work that out with the contractor, but I think in our preliminary, we thought it would start end of June, start of July. Again, depending on what they find when they get it milled off and the subgrade and everything. If everything went perfectly, and it's not going to, but if everything went perfectly, I think it could be done by September-ish, start of September, maybe middle of September. That'd be drivable with asphalt down, all the pavement markings, all the curb work, all the seating, that may not be done yet, but it would be, I think you could have Broad Street open probably in 2 or 3 months.
Guess I'll preface that with more of a comment than an additional question. The fact that we still have substantial truck traffic proceeding up and down that street every single day, I just would hate to waste $2 million just to have it ruined in short order by heavy truck traffic from out of town. So I'm not sure that we need to hold this up, but I think we do need to get our heads wrapped around what our enforcement is going to be, where we're going with the truck traffic elimination on Broad Street through truck traffic.
Councilman Horner.
Well, that was gonna mirror two things that I was gonna bring up that I think we need to consider now that we're gonna be spending the money to do the overlay. I guess there's one other thing. Troy, do we have a feel? I mean, you did a lot of core samples. Do you have a feel how much of that road you're gonna have to take all the way down and rebuild from scratch?
It wasn't a lot.
Okay,
It wasn't a lot.
all right. The second is, the county has dropped their speed limits out north of town, trying to slow traffic down to make it a little bit safer up there around the turn in, especially on southbound trucks turning in and crossing traffic on northbound traffic going into the truck stop. Are we given any, or are you waiting for any direction from council, or has anybody given any thoughts on what the city can do to piggyback off of what the county has done for further reducing those speeds coming off of that traffic traveling south, and then I guess even traveling north as well too there on that section? Because I think we could drop the speed limit to 40 at the top of the overpass, and then where it goes to 30 now or 35 now, change it to 30, but we don't need to get into that now. I do think slowing the traffic down, and I do think us trying to address, and I know we've gotten pushback from the state, but still trying to address that issue of signage to let trucks know that it is a no through truck ordinance. And I would just offer, if there are phone calls that can be made, would you please let me know? And I will be more than happy to try to make phone calls to see if we can, convince people to work with us on this. I mean, if nothing else, I can be a squeaky wheel.
We do have a meeting set up with the state on the 8th. They have the meeting that we were going to attend and inquire about it was during the storm, got canceled. It's been rescheduled for the 8th here. So if you wanted to attend that and talk to the state people there, we can. Our intent was we were going to do that internally, but that's the speed limit thing. I know I've had multiple conversations with multiple people about the speed limit. I have not moved forward with that. That is I think a fairly simple process. If that's something the council wants to do, bring it forward. It's been done a couple times around town. I know it was done on First Street. Council has that authority.
Council would like to do it.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the council on this? Okay, any comments from the public? Any additional comments from council? I'll just say this is an exciting project for the community. This is a long time coming to get Broad Street overlaid of all the roads in the community. I think this one, I get the most questions on where we're at. So, I want to thank Troy and the team for bringing this forward, getting a great bid for the community with a contractor. We will continue to press the state on what they can do to help with truck traffic as we go in pre-construction meetings. I'm sure we'll talk to them about how they're going to slow traffic down with that with the contractor and how it's going to work. And we'll look at that speed limit too. So this is an opportunity basically from June to September during construction that there's not going to be a lot of incentive to be driving around there anyway, because of construction. It's going to be slow going. But this is an absolute needed thing to get this done. I'll also say that, we approved the North Viaduct engineering as well. So that also is in the process. And so when the state relinquished Broad Street to the city, it has to be in good working order, and that's what we're working on getting it to. So that's, again, from 4th to 23rd, and then the viaduct. So this will be very much appreciated by everybody. I know it will. Any other questions? Councilwoman Horner?
No, if there are no other questions, Mayor, I would happily recommend that we approve resolution 2025-105.
Councilwoman Ganna?
Second.
Cast your votes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
All right. Everybody else have this or just me? Okay, I'll pass this to y'all if you want to. We got one copy here. I would need a motion to go into executive session. This would be for the purpose of discussing real estate matters and for the reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest. Do I have a vote on that? Councilman Vaughn, I need you to read this, please.
All right. I'm
First-
moved to go into executive session for the purpose of
Real-
real estate matters and for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest.
Okay, Councilman Horner.
I second that motion.
Okay, can I have it back? Sorry. I should have this memorized by now, at all the times we've done it. A motion has been made to second to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing real estate matters and for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest. Is there any discussion on this from the council? Seeing none on the motion, the pending motion is to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing real estate matters for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest. Please cast your vote. Go into executive session.
Motion to go into executive session carries 8-0, Mayor.
A motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing real estate matters and for the further reason that the executive session is necessary for the protection of the public interest has been approved. Discussion will be limited to real estate matters. No official actions or votes will be taken.
No, you called it.
Councilman Jensen, take a motion to come out of executive session.
I will make the motion to come out of executive session.
Councilman Vaughn.
I will second.
Missing one of you. There we go.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
All right, now motion to adjourn, please. Councilman Sukram,
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
Councilwoman Lathrop.
Second.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.